Okay, we slide into turn 4. Last turn of Soviet automatic air superiority. I haven't checked the chemical weapons. I don't remember when that changes over. And I'll get to that in a little bit. What do we got so far? Yeah, we've seen some pretty impressive gains in the first day and a half of the game. Over here on the down off front, a lot of empty space going up to Munich there, and some Germans trying to defend it. Otherwise, the river line here is providing some sort of defensive help, but this area is pretty much lowlands and not very defensible. We get over to where things get a little nastier, and we see that significant gains have been made over here. I think they were made with the aid of the 5th Corps map being jutting out the way it is. It feels almost, so I mean, advances on other maps other than the 5th Corps map feel almost like cheating when you're playing, you know, with all these maps, mainly because the victory conditions are on a map per map basis. And you know, I was able to drive things here to, what is this, Schweinfurt? I don't know. Nuremberg itself, we're almost there as well though, which is a bigger deal. Got a fairly solid line using the river where we can. A couple of incursions though. Come over here to the 5th Corps map where there is no natural river line, but the terrain is pretty decent, and there's no one, it's harder to subvert the 5th Corps map. I'm not saying it can't happen. This could result in a subversion for sure. Here we didn't attempt anything of that nature, but you can see we're close to the half map for the, what, 2-day scenario, whatever, 4-turn scenario. And, you know, it feels to me like the Soviets are advancing as they should, or maybe better than they should. However, I did do some things which I think cheated in their favor. So even though I tried to cheat against them in a similar fashion to cancel it out partially, it still doesn't make up for the fact that they got some strong advances. Bayeux got badly subverted. Now it did come from the 5th Corps map, but it cut right across the river line here of the Weser, and you can see we got a major incursion across the Weser. We're almost at the edge of the Bayeux map. That can be used to subvert any line on the 5th Corps map if, you know, the defense isn't flexible enough to react to it. But otherwise, once we get to about here, the Weser is protected even. And then we cut down here, and Hanover is actually still being defended and largely ignored by the Soviets, which is what they should be doing. NATO wants to defend Hanover. The Soviets want to gain as much space as they can, so they want to attack in the easiest terrain that they can. Come over here, and again, the North German plain map has been subverted badly from the Bayeux map. And you can see there's a major incursion here across the river, but Hamburg, although these units are out of supply and whatnot, and the river line here, the Elbe, are holding pretty firm given that there's like a flanking opportunity there. And honestly, we got something of a defense lined up there, so can we stop them? I don't know. But yeah. So that's where we're sitting right now. I should look up, do I have the chem points on here? I don't believe I have the chem multipliers on here. Oh yeah, here they are. Yeah, this is the last turn of a 3-shift chemical warfare advantage. Next turn, that'll drop down to 2. All right, and now I get to play raid, and then, I don't know. I think I can flip counters in the dark, so that's a major task that I can kind of try to catch. That won't take much. And obviously I can, you know, set the values on those tracks. So I've begun the big flip. Somebody was asking me, what the hell? Oh geez, these didn't come on. Fuck me. These should be all on the map. Let's get these here. Okay. Somebody was asking me why I flip first, say, the NATO side, then the Warsaw Pact side, rather than working just map by map the entire thing. And obviously, map by map, look, I could follow a single line up and down, and I'd have a good process for it. But what I do is I follow the front line, and basically each side's front line has the vast majority of their forces on it, and it has its own sort of natural curve to it. And then I catch what's behind that. And I just find that's easier than working the whole length of the map. If the map was much, much smaller, if it was, say, half the length of the map, I could do the lines relatively easily, but I find it much, much easier to work on basically half of each map at a time. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just, you know, I looked at it and just started working section by section, following the front line of one side. And I realized, look, I can't do the other side at the same time. I can do one side's kind of massive force, and then their back end units as well at the same time. May actually make sense to spread these out a little bit more. The reason for that, not there. The reason for that is, kind of actually don't like these guys being here at all. You know, I'm going to move these, I'm going to redo these completely. So, in the new system of the game, the helicopter units have a movement allowance of 30. They're nothing special in the old rules of the game. They have to actually basically rely on truck transport or something like that. I don't know if, you know, why the decision was changed. It would make sense, honestly, that the helicopters could carry their own base with them and set it up. But I'll follow the old system rules because that's what I'm following. And I do have to put a little bit of thought to this because I don't want a cluster of units that can all be hit by one paratrooper. Now, the Soviets only have one paratrooper left as far as I know, but they may have some more as reinforcements that I'm not thinking of. On the NATO side, that was working really, really well for the first 3 maps. I get to the Bear map and things get a little ugly because there's a fair density of troops right in here. And then, I don't know, the way things drop down and everything feels kind of funny, and there's stuff scattered and intermingled. And that's where the flipping gets really, really tough. And I start dividing it, you know, in little sections. Like I've done this little section. Now, the next little section that I do, the tweezers move again, okay? Key is, in these complex situations, I'm doing little slices of the map, right? So I can focus on a tiny bit and move the tweezers, and that reminds me of where I am. That way, if I need to take a sip of tea, or, you know, light my pipe or whatever, or just give my back a little rest, or pick up the camera, I can do those things and know precisely where I am. And now, after getting through, you know, where things were really hairy, I've sliced here, and now I've got a division here, and I know everything on this side of this little slice. Nice little, very limited space of pieces I still have to do. And I can do those all in sort of one action, right? I can keep all this in my mind, but I couldn't keep a large span of the map in my mind at once. In fact, just doing this little area where there was a little bit more depth to the NATO line was a little bit trickier than I like it to be. And now take that from, I've got this little clump, to I've got to do, I don't know, a whole, say, set of panels. Like I could divide it by panel, but the divisions between the maps is tricky enough already because there's pieces that kind of straddle those areas. So I like to delineate those anyhow. Like doing that on a panel by panel basis, I think would be very, very painful for me. This is another good example. So down here, obviously, this was kind of a clusterfuck. But as we get along here, I'm able to follow the natural front, right, of this line that's heading up this way, rather than trying to do things strictly by a geometric shape of an area that I'm trying to deal with. And I just find that much, much easier to cope with because this line, if you remember the 1914 game I played, that had sort of dividing lines between forces and whatnot. I find these little cracks, I work to them along the front. I catch whatever's in the background at the same time. And I'm just able to follow sort of the natural linear state of the front and catch things in little clumps that way. I'm having a hard time explaining it, but it's just so much easier for me to think in this way visually than it is to try to say, okay, I'm going to do this panel, and then I'll do this panel. And, you know, then there's like, oh, well, I got to make sure not to get that unit, even though I'm right close to it and everything. I have to be careful with the map-to-map conversions, too, but not that careful, because if I spill over a little, I just put my tweezer, you know. If I spill over because of a natural clumping, that's fine. Absolutely key in this game because it is possible that there will be units still on their white side if they're completely knocked to shit. But also, there are units that are not on their white side that need to get dealt with. It's not like just like, okay, all the units that have been, you know, marked moved have to be marked unmoved, the way that like, I'm thinking Korean War by Victory Games worked, where units were either, hey, they did their operation for the turn or they didn't. Here it's a little bit more complicated. It's not just their operation. It's possible that there are units like these guys who are resting to get rid of some of their additional friction points. I came on to say the great unflipping was over, but there's a squirrel. I don't think I can catch him on the camera. Anyway, I think I've got everything unflipped and in place, and maybe a little bit more interesting. We got our points here. This is the last turn of Warsaw Pact at guaranteed air superiority. There he is. Oh, what's going on here? What's going on? What's with your tail? How come you don't have a tail, dude? Uh-oh. Okay, so I wasn't the only one causing squirrel action to be kind of weird. All right. But point-wise, that means the normal 60 points for air that we've been seeing. But in terms of EW, Hofgap and Beor have 12, Donau Front has 10, and then 5th Corps and North German Plain 8 and 7 respectively. The NATO points are there. You know, honestly, okay, so Donau Front and Beor 8 and 7, North German Plain 5, Hofgap and 5th Corps each 4. I find it highly unlikely that NATO's going to do as many attacks as they have EW, at least the way I play, but I'm fine with having too many points. It's the Warsaw Pact's beginning to get enough points to be able to launch a few attacks, but NATO's also getting itself in a position where there's enough support in place that I kind of need the EW to launch any successful attack. in part because the helicopters, and first of all, there's a bunch of French helicopters. They're not going to do much. They can only support the French, and there aren't a lot of French on the board yet. But wherever the French are, they're going to be a particular problem. But, you know, I mean, look, I got this helicopter knocked out, but there's a German helicopter here. This guy just didn't want to move or something. I mean, if he moved, he could have been chased, and I didn't see the trade-off of points as being worth it. I see that the French are going to be able to perhaps clear that unit out of there. It's not recovering any friction points, because unlike forces that enter by ground, if you enter by air, you need an airhead to have supply. And I didn't bother to try to create one. Like, I could have created one here or something conceivably. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Probably not, actually. I don't see a route that could have gotten me here quickly. Well, maybe. I feel kind of weird of taking the highway. With airborne units would make sense. Are they even motorized? Yeah, they are. Okay. Yeah, that's something I got to keep track of. There are some unmotorized units, I think. Not many. They may only be the air mobile stuff. But yeah, most of it's going to be motorized. But yeah, so this map, there's a helicopter. This map, there are US helicopters up there. And I think I got another one kicking around somewhere else up here. Those are basically unable to be stopped. With artillery, I can get kind of lucky. I can punch a hole through and maybe sweep some units in and tie down, if there's not a lot of different hexes with artillery in them, I can tie down, you know, the local artillery that's giving support. But it's getting more and more to the point where, like, there's enough artillery on the line, there's helicopters there. Over here, what do we have for helicopters? That one's functional, that one's functional. Those are US. German one, it's pretty beat up. So that's another thing. You target specific nationalities, right? The Germans are weak because they don't have a lot of helicopters, especially in this area, right? They might have some in here because of the color difference. I might have a hard time seeing. I don't see one, though. I do see a British helicopter over here and another one over here. Those are small ones. Those are likely to get damaged in any fight they do. They might succeed in preventing an incursion, but there's a good chance that they might take a hit or something in addition to the point that they have to take to just be used. So another thing is you could just wear out the enemy's helicopters. You're probably going to take extra hits because of it or not do what you expected to do, but it is an option to try to attrition them. Over here, the German helicopter, it's pretty beat up, but not knocked out. Sorry, German, right? Another German that's pretty beat up. The British one, I think, is okay. It's not great, but it has like a fight left in it. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough to find the resources. Oh, wait, here's a German one. I already looked at this. Okay. It's going to be tough to find the resources to defend everywhere if Warsaw Pact decides to attack everywhere in terms of helicopter resources. But artillery is another matter. I've got artillery backing up a lot of these units. I keep thinking these are NATO. Where, you know, behind the lines, okay, if I get an EW attack, knock this out of the way, I can probably knock that artillery out. But then I got this one to deal with, and I got this one to deal with. And they've got, you know, overlapping fire zones, and it's just like, yeah, it's going to be really, really tough to get any kind of offensive steam. I don't think we're at the end yet, but we're getting close. It looks, you know, it's looking like it's in sight. Now, one of the biggest things is who gets the air power each turn. And starting next turn, we start rolling on a die. And it's basically 50% Warsaw Pact, but, 33% NATO gets it. And it's also possible that neither side gets superiority, in which case nobody has any points. But yeah, we did not get fog this turn, which is a shame. That can reduce some of my costs for mobile attacks and whatnot. But yeah, all right. And I'm just babbling rather than playing. I definitely don't want to play right now. My back is broken from doing what I did. So, I don't know. I'll fiddle around with some Raid or take another nap or something. And it's like 11 in the morning now. And I don't feel like I've gotten enough sleep. It looks like it's pretty and foggy and all that. So, it would be great if I could take a walk. But it also, I think, was supposed to rain today. So, I don't want to go too far if I do. And I just kind of don't want to. It's cold out. It's cold in. Funny, I got this huge fucking place. And I spend like 90% of my time in my little bedroom, office area, whatever. Tiny, tiny room. I got my computer set up there, which is kind of useful to me because I like to, when I sleep, I like to go to sleep with, something playing, like a video or something. Didn't used to do that, but now I do. And, it's where I keep my clothing kind of strewn all over the floor, as I do with all things. But it's the stuff that's semi-dirty. If it weren't for the board gaming, I would need so little room in my house. But with the board gaming, yeah, I mean, definitely never needed a place this size. But the place in Phoenix was a little too small in the sense that for me to set something up like this, I had to eat up the living room like I do here. I could conceivably do this up in the loft. There's no question of that. But I had here, I just like it better here for various reasons. And now that I no longer have to share this space, I'm willing to take a little bit of a hit, just like I was with 7 days in Phoenix. I was willing to, set up that big 9 mapper. Right? Is that what it was? Yeah, 9 maps. 10 maps was the one I had in here about a year ago. But it's just a weird sort of situation where it's like, yeah, but this is not where I'd want to play if it wasn't something so huge. I'd rather play somewhere where I have more consistent and better lighting for various reasons. But, I use every room in this house other than my wife's old bedroom, which is also kind of small like mine is. There's like 3 small bedrooms, 1 big bedroom, and the loft, which essentially could be a bedroom if you don't mind the fact that like it's open air to where everybody, to the main area of the house. But when people, and then there's like, I don't count this at all, but it was counted as, so the place officially is 5 bedrooms, but the loft can't count as a bedroom for like building code and whatnot. And there's this horrible little basement hole, basically. I mean, it's not that somebody lived in it, right? When I moved in here, I think there were 6 people who had to be living here because somebody had to have been in the loft. There's no way that no one would take that. But yeah, there's then 1, 2, 3, 4 little tiny bedroom type things, and then there's 1 really decent bedroom, and then there's the loft, which is also really decent. So yeah, but the idea of sharing it with anyone that I'm not like intimate with. Yeah. And I, you know, whatever, even though my wife and I had become basically asexual, there was still an intimacy there that's, you know, just not available with someone that you don't have that kind of relationship with at some point or another, right? I don't know. Anyway, once again, I'm back to babbling for no good reason and showing you a map because there's nothing all that interesting outside right now. I realize I'm kind of at a fortuitous time. I've got 5 tables set up here. Yeah, I'm halfway through. But I've started on the rolls. And DAC is 5 maps as well. With a little bit of, if I get my timing right and everything, I think I just leave what I've got set up up there in play, or down there in place. And when I'm done with that, whatever that is, and it may not be the completion of the game, so I got to get cracking on the rolls because I haven't read OCS in a long time. I just shift it. Those 5 tables, yeah, they don't have to be in a weird situation, but it'll be a lot easier, I think, than trying to do something similar up here. You know, it gets, I don't know. I mean, I can do this here. I could have done the other one up here too, conceivably. The problem, of course, with the other one is I got this nice big long table, but the maps kind of overspill it a little bit, which isn't bad because DAC fucking, so much of the map is water. But, yeah. It is actually a rectangular map. Just a thought. I'm trying to convince myself. This is the OCS game that I most want to play, and I don't want to screw around with the one that scares me the most. I can't see it in here, can I? How come my little light's not going on? Is well, that's nice and dark. Blitzkrieg Legend, which I just feel like, oh, I should do that first, you know, because chronologically it's earliest. But I'm actually terrified of it because it's so dense and there's so much air power and all this going on in it. Anyway, I'll go back to watching videos or whatever. Well, I guess we got to get started. We got a 22 tank division. It's going to come in. It has to come in through the railhead, one of the railheads, with only 6 movement points. Other than that, looking at the Darnell front map right now, we'll work our way through as we do. I mean, it takes so long to get through a turn of this. I'm really struggling because I know I'm going to hit the wall in terms of like being able to punch through very shortly. It may be this turn just because so many of these Warsaw Pact units are really worn down. You know, there's a lot that aren't. We can look here. You know, there's guys with nothing under them that can do something. But over here, I know that the Czechs are in bad shape. This is in bad shape. And I don't have a hell of a lot. I got another column coming here. And I got some reserves, but they don't look like real units. I've sent stuff over to the 5th Corps map because this is kind of ugly to fight in. And this is, again, feels a little weird, but you move the rear units up first. So I move my artillery into here. I might be able to use it for something. I don't know what. But then I slam this in, and this is coming from back here or something, to attack this artillery. The Czechs are pretty worn out, so I don't want to use them for it. I am not going to use an EW on this because this is a 1 strength point unit. I'm hitting it with 18. You throw that helicopter in, it becomes 18 to 8. Okay. It's going to have to be a march attack, but there's a pretty good chance I do a hit on the helicopter. It takes another hit just for activating. You want to save that 1-point artillery that bad? Go for it. You know, go for it. Since I, in addition, released chemicals in my attack. So, you know, even if the helicopter comes in, it's going to be fighting on something like the 5-to-1 chart. over here. Ooh, that's not pleasant. What was I looking at here? No, I was looking at 2 to 1, 1, 2, 3. It'll be over here. Yeah, it's almost certain to cause a hit to the helicopter. I'll take that, man. I'll take that. Oh, we do manage to get a kill here of that artillery unit. This artillery was able to support because EW did not work on a follow-up attack once I got in range of the artillery. But, you know, I had to hit with 2 supported regiments, heavily supported when it comes down to everything in it all, to knock out that one little artillery out there. Yeah, I had to travel a long way to smack into it. In addition, I took hits on it and everything. Like I said, it's painful, you know. This looked like a dead unit, and it has caused some harm. There's no question there. Our attacks, the Soviet division hit this a couple times. It did 1 hit to it. The second time, EW failed. Helicopter and artillery took place, caused a hit on it. And this is basically a used up division at this point. It really is. And what have we done? We cleared 1 little tiny artillery piece. It still counts as a full battalion. 1 little mountain artillery battalion in clear terrain, and we did 1 fatigue hit on one of these armored battalions. That's it. 18th Czech Division. Now it's got like a unit back here that you know needs to rest. Not terribly, but it wouldn't be able to add anything to this fight. So I'm like, yeah, let's wait. Couple of their regiments struck into this up here. Managed to push that guy back a hex. He's almost destroyed. This was an iffy attack. Again, I spent too many resources on it, to be honest, but I want the focus of my attack to be where my greatest expansion has been on this map, and that's really in this sector. Trying to slog through this doesn't make any sense. A cut here might, maybe, if I got a division that can do that. Right now, 9th Tank looks like it's kind of tied down in this shit, and I'm not going to be able to get out of that at all easily. So yeah, I mean, I made my press here, and basically in terms of, that may be it for this front. We got another division coming in here. You can't all make it on the map when you combine the rules for the 2 games, so I don't know, for the 2 systems. I stacked a couple of artillery in 1 space, just because. It's not gonna make much difference. I mean, worst comes to worst, this would be a column, you know, to here, if the rules are different for the new system. The guy with the wheelbarrow is, I think, hunting down more leaves. Yeah, he found another batch. Okay. Anyway, you know, this is probably all that happens on this map, to be really honest. I might try some attacks, you know, to try to gain a hex here or there. In terms of, I've got some EW available. I've got people who are set up for a multi-hex attack. We can see what happens there. But I'm not expecting much. These were the most likely attacks to succeed, and they basically did nothing. I destroyed an artillery unit that was way out of position and trapped. I did some damage to a couple of units, and I pushed 1 unit back 1 hex. And it's a unit that had, you know, has backup. There's like French sitting behind it that, you know, I'm not going to be able to do shit about it. Although, if I broke through completely, I would have been able to ooze in. And slightly better attacks might have allowed for that. Tank does a massive attack here. After expending quite a few resources, I get a 1 to 2 result. I caused 2 hits to this battalion. I took 1 hit on 2 regiments. I took 2 hits on a couple of artillery, another hit on this artillery, some air, some EW that failed. These 2 artillery did fire though. I wasn't in range to be able to counter battery them to begin with, so That wasn't an option, and yep. And I do not see this going anywhere. That looks battered. I guess one map done. By the way, I did check this to see if he could reach and neutralize that. He could not. He would spend 6, 7, 8 ops points to get to here. 9, 10, 11, 12, just missed. Just to keep you in mind, moved some artillery up for when this all heals. Moved some helicopters up, which I could have thrown into battles, but they wouldn't have made much difference, right? Like, helicopters are really, really powerful on mobile battles, especially on defense. I did a couple of mobile battles, but, I think against this, I did a couple mobile battles, which I could have thrown the helicopters in, but I had good odds. And had I thrown the helicopters in, that would just be an incentive for this helicopter to come in. And probably, like, it might have been an odds shift, but it would have meant damage to all my helicopters, which didn't seem reasonable. Since I have no damage on them, I moved them forward. I probably don't need to. 30 hexes is a lot of range, but they're non-divisional assets, so I can use them wherever. So conceivably, this guy could support over onto this map if need be, which is kind of important because there's even check units there, which, I don't know. Somehow, I feel like I'd rather use them for their own nationality. So that's the end of one map. I did almost nothing. Do I see much more happening anywhere? Not really. Not really. I think we've hit a sort of static place unless I can find some kind of breakthrough. Maybe something loosens up here. That's a really ugly situation for NATO. There's a little bit of weakness here that maybe I can punch through. That would be a big deal. These things probably stopped. Riverline is potent, real potent. I'm across the riverline. Shouldn't that be great? Yeah, not really. I'm still fighting stuff in terrain, and there's artillery and whatnot in place. So unless I get the EW luck and get a breakthrough and then get to pin down the artillery, we're not going to see any kind of big smash through. And you know, it's kind of a shame. I've got all these reserve units back here, but they're not going to do any better. Like, you got to open up the front to use them. Otherwise, you're just smashing more and more shit against the line in fruitless attacks. At this point, there is no overwhelming force. And honestly, this is how the NATO game works too. Okay. The armored cav is ignorable in that game. The covering forces, you just run through them, they cost you some movement points. That's it. They're just a light interdiction. But you do find some units, some decent sized units, and I've killed some decent sized forces. You do find some decent sized units that you can beat up on by surrounding them, throwing, first use chemicals, all kind of nasty shit at them real early in the battle. I don't remember how long turns are. They're either 1 day or 2 probably, which means the course of what we've played so far. And you can gain quite a bit of ground because there isn't a lot of defense in place. But as soon as NATO gets the capability to actually start moving their units and forming a cohesive defense, it's over, essentially. It really is. There's, it's not like those broad East Front war games where it's like, turn after turn of advances. It's just not going to happen. There's no blitz. You get stopped. And that was, who knows what would have really happened. But that was at least the assessment of people who, the people who design these games work from U.S. military assessments and whatnot. The picture was not completely bleak. It always sounded bleaker from sort of a civilian point of view. It always sounded like, oh, geez, they have such an advantage of numbers, et cetera. They're just going to overrun whatever NATO puts in the way. Well, that was not the military assessment. That's apparent from how these games develop. And I think that's kind of the interesting thing to learn from it. you can't tell whether or not it matches the historical factor. But once a cohesive defense gets put in place, the NATO forces were sufficient to hold their own. Maybe they lose some ground, but it would not be, an invasion of France type situation. Now, of course, France didn't think that they would fall in World War II either, right? They thought they could hold the line. Studying things over on the Warsaw Pact map, I see a couple of interesting factors. One is, I dropped an artillery unit here, moved it up here, dropped this guy here, moved him there to cancel these out. The reason for that is this particular unit is not susceptible to these, actually, that's not a helicopter, to this helicopter, but was susceptible to these two. And this unit is very important. I can do counter battery fire against this. I can do counter battery fire against this from back here. How about that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can't reach that, unfortunately. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that can't reach here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this can. So I've got to counter battery these two. This one's outside of range for it to matter. This one, first of all, it's German, but also it's pinned. And I think I can achieve some kind of breakthrough against this hex, which is a big deal because that might undermine the whole, I don't know what town this is here. We've got Liblins there. I think it's a lot of small cities in that area. Like it's fairly urban, but there's no big city there. But that is a major blockage point, and we've just found a means of applying some leverage and maybe gaining some ground that we'll be able to use against that mount. This is the kind of thing, you can fail at lots of attacks, right? Like the attacks that happened here, they didn't gain me anything. Terrible, and it sucks, it really does. You expect to be able to push on and everything. You've got all these high hopes, but you only kind of have to succeed at one. The defense has to be perfect. It really does. And this is something general across the board with these operational games, is that you're looking at a situation of, if I can find just one weakness, I can exploit that, and the whole defense fails because of that. And that's what we're hoping for here. I don't know which side I'm on, right? Comrade, we keep it a mystery. No, but I really, I know in the NATO game I'm always thinking of myself as NATO, but in this game I don't feel that same sort of alignment. I think it's because of the colors of the counters. In the NATO game, they have prettier colors on the counters. Here, I'm kind of mixed opinion. I kind of like both color counters. It's the color. It's the color of the counters. By the way, I brought up on Facebook. I was thinking, my Deadpool is going to be smaller in this game, and I started wondering, wait a minute, didn't they name a comic book character after the piles of destroyed units? What's up with that? And I went and looked it up, and it came out in the Deadpool came as a character in the 90s, not in the movie, in the comics themselves. So it's like, whoa, where are they getting it from? There was a fair amount of crossover between gaming and comic book people, and I could see the word having actually influenced the comic book character's name, essentially. I managed to parlay that into a nice little breakthrough up to here, pinning these artillery down, but I'm running out of units to commit. Is the problem. This thing that's in a zone, though. I mean, it can, but it'd have a hard time getting up there. But, I might be able to do something still with this. Now, I'm under the umbrella of the helicopter now. We checked that. And we managed to push aside this German artillery, which doesn't do as much as we would like, but given that we don't have another, like if we had another division, we could really take advantage of this breakthrough, because we could swing around behind, start pinning some of this artillery, hit that thing, of course, and clear the way here. Right now what I'm looking at is, do I have anything that can clear the way to this? And the answer is, yeah, I have this. Now on the bright side, I have this airhead back here, which kind of helps too. So that can supply units. And I could actually, assuming NATO doesn't move into there, if I could get my unit up there to defend it, I could actually start shipping reinforcements, full units, up into there. And that would cause all kinds of havoc. So there's a big payoff to me, not trying to free this unit, but trying to push even further forward. Obviously, I could have left just the air unit, the airborne unit in there, and try to pull reinforcements in that way. But I don't know. I didn't do that, did I? I actually have reinforcements. Damn. I think I'm allowed to bring them in, having grabbed that ahead of time. I think I can bring in like 2 regiments up there. Well, that changes the nature of the world. Why wasn't I grabbing air bases before? What the fuck's wrong with me? I gotta look up the rules on that. I'm not allowed to move the unit, but it helps me protect the airhead, and I'm connecting up to that, which is a big deal. So I'm gonna bring that in where that is. I don't know where the rest of the division is gonna come in, but it definitely seems worthwhile to put some real force up there, since I am close to hooking it up. I'm only allowed to do that once per game turn. Is that my best option? Yeah, it's the only place I'm going to have a working airhead. I don't have any more airborne reinforcements coming in, as far as I know. One of the problems with a game this big, this many pieces all over, not a lot of distinguishment between them in appearance. I didn't notice this fucking helicopter here at all. That definitely could have exerted influence all over here. Oh well, if it's 2 players playing, one might not notice, the other probably will. But when I'm focusing solo, yeah, this is the kind of mistake that happened. I ended up clearing that engineer out of there, moving to here, and that is, I'm not going to launch any attacks because I don't want to get hurt. But with these units here, with this breakthrough happening here, I'm really putting the screws in on Nuremberg. And I think the NATO line has just been collapsed. We'll see. This unit is vulnerable to being surrounded, as is this unit. This one is not, because it came in through the airhead. It's not expecting surprise. You would think somebody who did a maneuver like this would be like, yeah, we're going to get attacked. Nope, not for the Soviets. The Warsaw Pact doctrine is so strong. Of course NATO is going to fall back. All right, I don't know. I feel like I've done a lot in these few moves, and I don't really know what else I want to do, like right away. I want to run away. What I really want is a donut, but I ate all my fucking donuts. That's okay, I'm too fat anyway, but yeah, I feel like I need to take a little break here. Oh, who can save the day for this? I don't know, man. It's not pretty. And, this artillery is going to be easy to pin down. Sure, it can run away, but this is part of the 19th Division, which is kind of here. I don't know where the fuck it is. Some of it's here. That's about half of it. A little bit more here. I got to find the rest of that division. It's very, very easy to lose track of where your divisions are. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, that's defended. This isn't. The 19th Division is kind of beat up, so I'm probably not. Oh, here's more of it. Yeah, 19th Division is kind of beat up. I'm thinking about throwing the 2nd in straight at Nuremberg, since that's kind of breaching through. The problem with that, of course, is I got this potential breakthrough here that I'd kind of like to take advantage of, but it actually is really beginning to look like the Hof Gap map is failing. The NATO defenses there are failing, and I'm not going to say it's all because of this, but that was a major factor. That helicopter, though, meant that I would have had to use EW, and that's just a 50-50 chance, so I don't know. A little earlier, I mentioned how I didn't want to do last Blitzkrieg because of really all the overlap, and there'd be so much air power, so much artillery, so much stuff going on. And this game is actually pushing me beyond where I'm comfortable. You know, I look over here. Yeah, I was able to figure this out. Sure, I cheated, not realizing this helicopter was in range. But now I got to worry about the helicopters over here, and then other ones. There's one over there, and sort of the collateral effect, and just like there's nothing I can do to sort of pin down and make any of these attacks. And then I add to that, you know, I was able to pick on a weak little US unit, at least weak for mobile warfare, but trying to hit one of these, you know, 4 or 5 units that no matter what, it's going to have a decent defensive rating no matter what I choose to do. So yeah, I'll have to choose normal combat because it has more impact. It doesn't have that -1 or whatever. It just looks so impossible, right? Like, to get the kind of odds I want on this, I got to get something like 30 strength points. So it may be realistic. It really may be. It's not the way I'm used to thinking in war games. And the same kind of thing fits in the OCS games, where it's like, yeah, you find that weak spot in the line and that's what you attack. And you attack it with as much as possible, with as much follow-up as you can have. And this game does promote that. Unfortunately, it's really hard. Like that weak spot, there aren't a lot of them. I'm looking for them. You know, there's one kind of here, and I'm in not a bad position to exploit that. So maybe that's where I move next, hoping to, you know, get in on these artillery and kind of start wreaking some havoc there and expand that line. But it's really hard to think in that term, especially when I'm kind of hungry. The only answer I can come to at this point, because of the numbers required to attack these bigger units, is to do what I'd call a fully prepared attack. Now here, you know, they've got prepared hasty march. I don't mean that. I mean a set piece type battle where I've got, you know, 3 units of the division surrounding this thing, and I'm going to hope for the best with it. I'm going to have to get EW. I'm going to have to, you know, get a decent roll. It's going to be a prepared assault because I'm putting so much effort into it. I want to make sure I get on that column. If I get any kind of breakthrough, that's great, but for the most part, I'm not expecting to. And I can do that in a later impulse on this same turn. There's not that much harm to it except for the hits that I take on all the units. So that's really what I'm facing now in terms of trying to degrade the position where there's stronger units in place. I can't just, you know, buzz through the way I was able to against this guy, who isn't a bad unit. It's just, he's not good at mobile warfare. So I was able to, you know, get a hook in there where I could get the kind of numbers. But here, what we're looking at is 6, 14, 24, 33 strength against 5. That's a 6 to 1. That's about the level that you need to start playing in this game, right? That is about what you need. And I can't afford to throw in, so much artillery and resources and whatnot with some kind of hope of getting anywhere near that kind of numerical result. Plus I get a shift for surrounding, shifts for additional units attacking from additional directions, all kind of stuff like that. So yeah, I'm expecting that, but that gives NATO a chance to pull units back and say, okay, we can't hold that line, that unit might go. I managed to find another weak unit here, and so I launched an attack across the river here. Here I'm again setting myself up for that, fully prepared assault. Maybe even less valuable because there's units in the rear, I don't know. But I mean, there's artillery there as well, so I can break out one way or another. But this was a major attack. If the EW worked, I'd have been on the top of the chart. It didn't. I end up down in the midst of the chart. I expend a hell of a lot of resources to cause one friction point to that unit. I buy it, I buy that, that there is that much variance in the combat capabilities, because what really happened was I was able to get a little bit of artillery support in, and boom, I just brought this gun in. That brought it up from 2 to 6 points, so it went from 11 to 1 to 3 to 1 as the base table. And then you'll see the city chart only goes down to 2 to 1. So, it wasn't going to get much better. I would have to throw in a lot of resources for that, but I basically put in something that didn't count at all. So I spent a couple of points, and a fair amount of attack capability was thrown in against that, including an engineer that I had to pull off of a different area. I think it's raid time. I'm struggling and trying to get a grip. Is there any way that I can get an advance in this situation? And yeah, I can see where I could have, right? Like, first of all, I'm setting up some attacks that maybe will succeed. There's something interesting there. And it's not like I haven't gotten some kind of cool breakthrough anyway already, right? I'm already going to cause NATO to do something just by this attack here and by the landing here. But these things, I don't know, That could actually end up being a counterattack against me as I set up trying to get a unit surrounded. But this attack, this did nothing. But it could have been quite large. And then, then I hit these artillery, and boom, I'm through out to here, right? Well, we already got somebody out there. Got to go figure out a way to save him, and that's going to be hard to do. That's going to be real hard to do. Maybe that way, I don't know. Because I got to keep pumping more units through, right? I can't, yes, I can attack this and gain forward motion, but that leaves me with zones in place and no easy way to get out of there. Is this another small unit? No, fuck. All right, camera off. Figured out what was there, but yeah, and that's what we're going to be seeing more and more along the line. I mean, I just look along here. Yeah, there's a weak unit there, and some possibility to break through, hit some artillery, which is going to be weak, some armored cav here, so we've got potential here to gain some more ground again. But then we start looking along here. This is the kind of unit that I attacked a couple of times over on the Hoff Gap map. You can break those units using mobile warfare. It's a possibility. This could be beaten up by mobile. These start getting kind of uglier. Got some lighter stuff here. This, God knows what's going to come of that. I've got to study that whole situation. But yeah, I mean, looking at 5th Corps Hofgap maps, I got a lot of these kind of, I feel like I've got good odds, I'm attacking at 11 to 1 or whatever, but only if the EW works. And if the EW doesn't work, I don't have good odds. And that 11 to 1 doesn't guarantee you much, right? You get over here, you're playing around 11 to 1 here, 1, 2, 3 out here. I think I had 2 more shifts due to attacking the city itself, and a shift against for the river. That probably would send him into a really bad position, right? That unit, even if it didn't retreat, and it might not have wanted to, would have been taking a lot of hits and be in really bad shape. Right now it's sitting, yeah, that unit would have died. So, you know, yeah, there's potentials for breaking it out. It's just, it really comes down to a very significant, a very iffy die roll. Now compare that to your CRT type results, right? So the results here, it seems like, oh look, I've got a 50-50 chance of getting a good attack off, and if I don't get the good attack off, what happens? Well, not that much happened. It wasn't that terrible for the attacker. It wasn't like, oh God, you know, I got shifted down from, I don't know. It didn't feel like, say, moving from like the 5 to 1 or 6 to 1 odds in, you know, a classic Avalon Hill type game down to 1 to 2 or anything like that. Even though I went from the top of the chart to the bottom of the chart. The top of the chart would have mostly eliminated that unit. The bottom of the chart, the main costs are still the resources that I'm spending on launching the attack. Sure, I get unlucky every now and then. I lose a dedicated artillery or something that I have doing direct fire. Anyway, okay, I just got some context on the version I'm using, the date I'm using, whatever. It is definitely not the finished version of the Volher's rules and counter sheet. So I don't see. I think, but I may be mistaken on this, that Kerry Anderson, who used to run the SPI wrecking yard, made the counters for this. And that may have been in kind of like a cooperative, or it may have just been, he went off on his own. I know he's not doing it anymore. I don't think he's running the wrecking yard either, but I seem to remember that he had come up with a counter sheet for this. He did some really interesting like reprints. Like I have his Cambrai from the Rand Gaming Associates, and I don't know if he got rights to anything or just sort of, you know, is like, well, I have the capability, I have, you know, the counter scan, whatever. Which may be why he's no longer doing that. About a half hour to burn. And that last comment that I made, I was like, I could come here and do this, you know? And I am gonna try. I unfortunately was planning on sleeping for a couple hours as a nap, and I just couldn't do so. I ended up listening to videos with my eyes closed for the most part, but I ate something in between and whatnot. But let me take a little bit more look. Now this unit I tilted, I've been doing this every now and then. That's a unit that I cannot move. And I wouldn't want to anyway, but it held the place for a unit, for an engineer actually to run away from outside of it. But one thing that I'm considering here is I've been using air points very, very lightly in every battle that I use throughout the game so far. But if I'm doing a lot less fighting, I probably can throw more air units into a given fight. So I've generally used like 1 to drop chemicals, maybe 1 to, you know, switch an odds result by a column or something if I can do that. The odds table, as I've said, it's very smooth, so it doesn't really behoove you to like throw in 3 more air points for another column usually. Or whatever. But artillery, yeah, you know, they come in clumps, so that feels more reasonable. But if I'm not going to be making a lot of attacks, and I really haven't so far, I should be considering using my air points a little bit more recklessly, I guess. Prodigiously. I don't know quite what the word is here. Profligatively. Let's make that word up. Okay. Relatively heavy amounts of resources have been spent destroying the unit that was here, one of these little 2.5s, and then smacking this one here. And I'm using up, a lot of the artillery from both 79th Guard, 7th Guard, as well as, some air points, some EW and whatnot. I haven't really gotten the advance I wanted. I really want to break through here. This I view as, the means of taking the Hoff Gap map out of contention. And then, of course, just like I was looking here with the Bayor map, hey, I can swing back on. I could conceivably come back up this way. Obviously, though, there's a nice defense line here. Just like if this ends up collapsing, there's another defense line. It's not like it's an automatic, win coming through with that. But now I'm running kind of out of choices. I guess I can still hit some more 7th Guard coming in up here to try to crack this line, try to crack this unit here. The fact that these are Germans is really what's making them accessible to be whacked. Even more resources in the artillery down here, as well as, actually took it off the wrong artillery. I think I owe a couple from here over to there, as well as helicopters and a couple air points, not that many. The EW points though, but those are Hoff Gap, I don't care about them, have got me where I kind of wanted to go. Now I consider, hey, can I launch an attack on these artillery? Those are just 2 artillery on their own. Oh, we've got to do something about them, no question. Again, another fairly heavy expenditure of resources, part of it because the helicopters got to intervene twice, but those helicopters are pretty shot up now, which is just, one of the facets of like, maybe I should have used these helicopters for one of the fights instead. It's one of the facets of risking your helicopters is, yeah, they're potent, but it got it down to a 2-to-1. And when that was in the flat, that was not good odds. Once I fought in here in the city, it was in good odds. I moved the engineer up after the fight was over because I didn't have a clear route up there beforehand. I still have a couple of units of the 7th Guard I haven't figured out what I want to do with yet. I definitely want to do something, and I could conceivably throw them in over here, get them mixed up in with the 79th Guard. I don't like to do that, but moving this looks harder. Like, too hard? I mean, 4-to-1 odds, not good, man. I mean, it's not terrible if I had a lot of resources around, but without the artillery support, I'd have to throw a hell of a lot in. But this would actually break things pretty nicely wide open and really force NATO to do something. Whereas right now, I'm not so sure. They've got to do something. So I don't know. Maybe they're fine. Maybe I just let them pull back or whatever. Because if I bash through here, that doesn't really win me anything. But another option would be to try to go after these guys. If I can get the EW on them, that could like really degrade the position in other directions. And the nice thing about these is they're not that big, but they are 2 strength points. It's hard to fight. I just don't have the resources anymore. Anyway, that's it for now. I've got lots and lots of raid to do. But hey, I moved like almost 2 whole divisions. It's a big deal for me. Guess it's Tuesday. It's so hard for me to tell anything. Anyway, I have some vague hopes of getting not to the main store, but to the little market of no choice near me. A couple of treats I'd like to get there, in particular a meat stick thing. that I really like, but a couple other things. But I don't like chocolate. I don't really know if I'm going to be able to make it because I think it's supposed to rain later. It's kind of pretty now, and I just don't want to cope with that. But also, rate is being incredibly demanding right now, and I really want to do some of this, right? I got to get some of this played if I'm going to move. I'm actually reading some of the OCS rules. Okay, so still on the Hoff gap map, yeah, I covered some of what's here, and I still have parts of the 7th guard left that I can operate here. But I want to go back here because I've got some big questions to answer based on what I saw, what happened over here. I got a couple of backup units. I've got a division here with some assets, including some helicopters, and an engineer, which should be very useful. But I have this 20th division here, and I know that's a division because maybe that's just an artillery division. No, I know that's a division because I have this, but I don't know where the hell the rest of it is. Like, I don't see any pieces of that type. And I'm pretty sure I didn't lose big chunks of a division, in combat. Oh, here's another piece of it. But there's got to be more of it somewhere. And I'm just, that should be pretty easy to see. There aren't a lot of pieces this color, right? And maybe it's like half a division or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, whatever it is, it's not going to be able to do much if I can't find more of it. So, it may be something that I use to patch a hole somewhere. It's in healthy shape, what I can find of it. And could do something along the edges or something. I've got this 57th guard, which looks pretty beat up right now. This is part of 18th guard. 18th guard has not completely moved. I made this assault here, so I'm probably going to stick in that general area and try to do something there. This is part of 57th guard, which is this stuff. So again, they're kind of committed over there. And the big question then is, well, I got 2 divisions to move. One, this 15th guard, and then the 17th. And where the hell they're going to go? I really want to put some pressure on here with something. But that's a long way. I looked over here. I could conceivably land an attack on this or something. It doesn't look like there's much to gain heading in that direction. I've got several divisions over there. I might send this one there. So yeah, I'm struggling with where to place these sort of reserve units before I move on. And moving on probably will be over to here. Yeah, because I feel like I can handle this as a distinct entity, but I'm having trouble. I could get started over here. That's not even a real problem because then I would get the collateral effects from here, and I think it would actually be helpful to just keep going straight across, for the simple fact that I do have a bunch of divisions coming in here, and I kind of want to know how much can I send into the North German plain, and how much do I need to reinforce on the Bayor map. So that's kind of my plan, but I've probably babbled enough that my raid is done. The main problem is 15th guard here is this. It's already moved in this direction quite a bit. For me to shift direction, I have to cut down and head up this way or whatever. But but I'm still closer to where I would want to be than this new division is. And that's kind of, I don't know. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to move the 20th over here and the new division, and I'm going to try to move 15th Guard up there, just because I got a big hole, and having another unit to try to exploit these attempted breakthroughs or whatever I'm doing over there seems like it's probably a good idea. I thought I had more units across the river that could do shit. Look at this guy, what the fuck? This guy was one of them. But I thought I had another incursion. I guess I'm thinking these little things. The final Hofgap EW point and the 57th Guard. I slipped them in over here. There was a couple of armored cav here. I managed to hit those, and actually I'm not that far. I forgot it was a mobile attack. You don't go as far in a mobile attack, obviously. It's because the retreat results are less. It's the whole thing. But we got the breakthrough in the sort of semi-connection in a go-like way to here, which is a pretty big deal. That actually gets us in supply with this unit for now. I mean, you know, NATO can break that, but it definitely starts to make this NATO situation. The river line over here is getting less and less tenable for them. And on the other hand, withdrawal is not easy in this game, as it shouldn't be. It's hard to pull out, man. We come to one of those annoyances. This 17th Division, and this has nothing to do with the conversion, might have to do with the Beor rule book as opposed to the Hofgap rule book, but this division only has 6 units. I don't think I'm missing anything because I kind of fact checked while I was setting the game up, and if I was missing a unit, I would pull it in from the Valhers set. But you know, I've added units to the board and whatnot that I don't know what they're for. So screw it, I'm just going to make a guesstimate here. I could dig down there and look for the Hofgap. Yeah, I'm kind of curious. What the hell? Let's see. This is 5th Corps. This is Hofgap. So unfortunately, Hofgap does not have the ordering right there. Oh my God, they have a ton of different types of units. So yeah, but that's because they have so many different nationalities. So this is not the 23rd Tank Division. This is what it looks like it was. And it appears I'm missing a unit, I think. That's weird. One particular special type of force. I'm missing a mechanized infantry, a big one. I wonder if that's like made it in with some other force or what. Worked out a lot better than I thought it would. I don't know, you know, I mean, I could well have lost units back when I was playing in the garage or any time since then, or even before that. I think I might have even been missing one by that point. But I managed to find it in the Valhers counters. And that's kind of shocking because although it may actually be, you know, these are readable counters. These guys are readable. This, not so much. I'm thinking that it might have, you know, I might have confused it with the first tank or something. But yeah, I had to look through that big bag there. And honestly, I found it on about the, you know, within the first couple dozen counters that I peeked at. I almost thought, or I was thinking, it's an insurmountable task. Fuck it, it's not worth it. Miss a unit. It may be on the board somewhere anyway doing something. But let's bring that guy in. I'm trying to figure out where they're going to go. I think I'm going to shoot them up in this direction and try to use the 15th guard in the direction it's already moving, just to save movement points. No matter what, this isn't going to get anywhere too interesting, and this isn't going to get anywhere too interesting this turn. And they'll be in position to start affecting things. Well, this impulse. They'll be in a position to start influencing things in a more interesting fashion fairly soon, I think. I think I'm finally done with the Hoff Gap map. Let's see what we got here. We got some units in movement here, things like the 17th Guard here, 57th Guard is still in waiting back here. 20th Division trying to make its way up to where it was. We brushed aside a couple of armored cav type pieces, like here, there was one up here, a German one. Just, you know, that went through here. That allowed me to cross the river in a way that I wouldn't have been able to if it hadn't retreated. That retreat might have been a serious mistake because of that, but I'm just not seeing a lot of force here. I don't know. I probably should have let it die. But I don't know where the Czech... See, the thing is, the Czech, if I let it die, there might have been a better place for the Czech unit to go, because it would have had a lot of movement. It would have been able to cross the river up here and be in a more supported position. So it's like, yeah, they're going to be able to make it across the river no matter what with those big advance rates that come, because terrain kind of doesn't matter when you're advancing. And 26th Artillery is all through here, prepared to give a lot of support to these big attacks that I've got planned. Got a couple of engineers heading up here into the Nuremberg region for fighting for the city, for fighting for crossing the river. Things are really kind of a complicated mess. Pieces like this jumping into place. I feel like I got to do something on the next impulse in a couple of places here, but you know, that's next impulse's problem, not right now. I'm hungry as shit. So I think I need to make myself some kind of food. Don't know what. Probably, I don't know. Like nothing sounds good anymore. You know, and I have these staples like ham sandwich, my Polish sausage dogs, but I'm never getting anything that tastes particularly interesting for the most part. I had like burgers a week ago or so. That was kind of cool. But it's just especially because of the backpack situation, having to carry the food on my back, I couldn't afford to get any kind of like, ooh, this will be interesting. And my stocks are running low anyway, because, you know, I've been having issues anyhow. All right. A couple of things in my mental state as I consider whether or not I want to play anymore right now. One, I decided I'm tired of I don't want to pursue raid too heavily. Like, there's something that I could chase after right now, just for, you know, the next 12 hours or whatever, that's pretty big, but it would also cost me a lot, and it would take up, you know, I would have to be playing pretty much the rest of the, or much of the rest of the day, and it would take resources in the game. And I'm just like, screw it, you know, I don't care that much. There is a clan fight on, but nobody's taking this one very seriously. But the other thing is, I look outside and I look on my little weather app and it says, hey, it's not supposed to rain anymore. I think, oh, I could go shopping. I had a ham and cheese omelet, which actually, this is a pretty common thing for me to eat. So it's not any kind of, ooh, I did something special. It's just like, this is one of my staples right now. But still feel like I could eat. It was only one egg, but I'm trying not to overeat, and it's not working. But yeah, I would love to go down and, you know, Good stuff. It's supposed to be prettier tomorrow. That's an argument that I can make in favor of holding off. But the reality is just the idea of like leaving the house is just so fucking hard. You know? I don't know. So we'll try playing a little. Maybe I'll get so disturbed trying to play that the idea of going shopping or even just going outside, because I really don't care that much about the shopping. It's actually the walk I'd like. But if either of those ideas becomes like, you know, less unattractive, that's how I operate. You know, it's all a matter of, can I make myself miserable enough with what I'm doing that this other thing doesn't seem that terrible? Well, best laid plans may be broken, because I see this is turn 4. The 40th Guard Tank Division is supposed to be coming on in the North German plain. Now, it's possible that's already in the Bayard map or something. I got to deal with my keyhole. I'm going to switch over to this map and start working inward, right? Because this is not a bad breaking point. Sure, I got a couple units of 7th Guard still to move. I have no fucking clue what I want to do with them, but I think they may be impacted by what happens here, and everything gets kind of blurry, and I'm kind of like, okay, you know what? I think I want to do this map first, figure out what's going on here, and then see from there which way Bayard is going to shift and whatnot, because I got a whole bunch of reinforcements here. So 40th Guard tanks is supposed to be coming in. This is this turn's reinforcements. It's just these Dutch units. These are Poles come in later. It's not associated with any of these other stacks. And so I'm left with a few questions. Did I fuck up and just, you know, miss this reinforcement, which is quite possible? Or is it one of those units that's like dual map, you know, that shows up in one of the original 3 games and now it's actually on the board? Or, well, the only things that aren't on the board are here, and it's not one of those. Oh wait, in here. It's not any of those. So, did it come on already? Chances are it's the Bayard map, but I gotta look through all the setups, see if I can find a 40th Guard tank, and if not, then I gotta fish it out of there. And if it comes down to fishing it out of there, I think I end up doing lots of raid today, because I'm gonna be in front of the computer pawing through the counter mix. A quick look at Bayard and the consolidated, I don't see any mention of it. So I am guessing that I just somehow said, yeah, I can't imagine that I did this though. This is the whole thing. Like, even if I skipped it, I should have a pile of these units somewhere. I haven't checked those yet. You know what? I brought it in early. This makes me much happier. It's already up here and engaged. These counters are hard to read. Okay, problem averted. They came in a little early, too bad. Not the kind of thing I can fix. But again, even at the time that these were created originally, including this game, these are just estimates as to when they would have made it there, right? Everything's very, very fuzzy in terms of, you know, going from how the units would actually operate in the field and you know, whether the doctrines would match up and whether or not there would be much flexibility in changing the doctrine in the face of the enemy. Obviously, NATO probably would have an easier time with that, but at least, you know, again, by our projections and our understanding of the intelligence. But certainly, you know, where the units are, this could have been positioned forward a little earlier. I think what happened was it came in last turn or something, I think, because I remember bringing reinforcements in here, and there was a skip here, so I think I brought it in a turn early, which really is a minor difference when it comes down to the overall flow of things. Certainly compared to things like the actual counter mix, which is, just a projection, really. I mean, these guys were a projection to begin with. The newer games are a projection of their own. The idea of, let's take all the units from those newer maps and just kind of make them in the old style so that they work with the old rules is really weird, right? It's probably pretty close to true, but whatever. I've run out of paratroopers, kind of for the Soviet, for the Warsaw Pact. I'm kind of beginning to think of, maybe it is worth fucking air mobilizing some stuff just to cancel out the damn helicopters. Right now, I'm facing a decent amount of British helicopters, which impacts this area. These are US, which are really out of position. I don't know why they're there. Is that the major training forces? I don't think so. I think those went over that way, but whatever. And in fact, they can't be, because this map is its own little world. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck these units are. But there's also a couple of German helicopters, while they're shot up and probably won't get used. Can I guarantee they won't if I have a key battle? Probably not. But the air mobilization rules are more painful than the paradropping rules. First of all, I have to use helicopters to move these things around, which means that basically the helicopter units, they don't take a hit from it, which feels weird as hell. It feels like it would still put some strain on the bases. Ooh. Little guy there. It feels like it would still put some strain on the base, the maintenance crews, whatever. Although, maybe they're just counted in. Maybe they've got kind of a separate crew for that and everything. They certainly have separate helicopters for the transport. But the other thing is, I have to worry about enemy zones of control in terms of flying. And I have a total flight range of 30, which is move to the hex that I want to reach, that I want to pick up a unit, pick it up, and then fly the unit somewhere that I want to actually put it into play. That's a pain in the ass. And then I also am not absolutely, I don't know which units can be air mobilized. There's a list of them. But yeah, it's going to be kind of painful to try to hunt down a specific unit that I want to break down, I want to use for that, and I have the range. I can check the range with my little rangefinder and just see. And I think very quickly I'm going to see that these helicopters, at best, are going to be able to deal with this unit, which, doesn't seem sufficient when there are multiple in there. Over here, my helicopters aren't really in position yet. Like, on some of the maps, I'm starting to move my helicopters far enough forward that they could actually accomplish these goals. For example, here I've got a helicopter out here. I got one out here, over here. But I don't think that's the case on the VR map. Got to hunt all over the place and look for things. And I'm pretty sure it's not there. So I'm not going to look it up yet, but it is something to keep in mind. If I need to put helicopters out of commission, I do still have a remaining tool. Studying the map a little bit. This line here, it's not very big, but it's actually pretty effective. I think the weakest spot on it is here, here. Of course, these are units in cities. which may not be that weak. I mean, I can look at stuff like this and say, well, this is kind of weak, this especially, but that's not really in the bulge area itself. That's sort of a secondary attack that I'm thinking would work. More to subvert things on this map itself rather than try to push anything of interest onto the Bayar map. I really don't know if I have, I mean, I can pick on this, you know, but that doesn't get me much. Yeah, I'm having a really hard time. This is 21st Division down here. Part of it is up here. 35th is over there. Great. Yeah. Damn. This game is fucking hard, man. Like, and this is, I don't know. Like, I'm not interested particularly in playing something of this nature where it's one of the more simple styles of game. I'm okay with having like 4 or 5 games at kind of that SCS level, and worse, you know, right? So trying to look at something of this nature, I'm like, wow, this is covering the kind of fighting and the kind of decision making that I'm interested in, just like OCS is. But it makes me fear OCS. It really does. Now, DAC, I know, is going to be easier than some of the others, but shit. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Why do I do these to myself? Oh, I conducted a major prepared attack here. I'll do another one. Cost a fair amount of resources. But here's the thing. EW failed. Germans threw in some artillery. I didn't get anything out of it as the Soviets. But I'm beginning to see that, you know, they're having a hard time, NATO's having a hard time coming up with the firepower resources to defend stuff as well. Their units in this area are beginning to get fatigued. Now, these Dutch are showing up and they're fresher, but not too fresh. Literally, including, you know, time on camera and whatnot. It's taken me about an hour to figure out, once I gave up on this map, or stopped on that map, to figure out what the hell to do on this map. This is why a lot of these bigger games, they're just on, especially the operational stuff. Look, the tactical, I can make my mind up and start moving pieces. I can just do it, right? I don't have to study. Like when I was playing Leipzig, I did not have to study and study and study and figure out, all right, which hex do I have to hit to start my breakthrough and everything. The fact that it takes this long is why these big games are not really playable in an opposed fashion. Look, you can do it at Consim World. And, you know, I remember I would be sitting outside and it would be a couple hours hanging out with, you know, guys who are playing an OCS game or whatever, as they just waited for their turn to come around, right? And here, you know, we're talking about there would be 4 or 5 guys on a side, or at least 2 to 3 on a side playing at a given time. So like, you know, and then the set would switch and I'd see the other group and whatever. But the idea of like doing something like this as a, say, a 2-player game is just obscene, right? It really is. Now DAC is not, because the front isn't, like this is all front, right? But, you know, the idea of doing something like the big tactical Napoleonic and Civil War stuff that I've done, I can totally see that. You're usually engaged as the enemy. Now, what's really ugly is where there's a lot of opportunity action going on in a turn. where you have to be around and you really have to have your opponent point out, hey, I'm doing something you want to pay attention to, which you wouldn't play anything like this with people who are trying to sneak moves in that you're not looking for or whatever. Anytime you're doing any, but yeah, it's, to me, it's really a solitary undertaking when you're looking at one of these. Now, you can get the same kind of interactability and excitement and everything in much, much smaller games. Flashpoint Golan's smaller. There's a lot of crap going on in it, so it's hard no matter what. But I'm thinking, when you look at things like No Retreat and stuff like that, they allow you a lot of this kind of, a lot of the same kind of decision making, but it's on a very small level. And so for people who like to figure out the puzzle of what's going, of how to make the attack, they're great. I don't really like the puzzle. I like the narrative that comes out of it. I like the fact that it's simulating details, right? Like, that's what I like about this game, is the simulation aspect and the story that it tells. And what I don't like is the stuff that people would probably say, this is really cool gameplay mechanisms. This having to figure out how to get that attack out there and everything. I don't give a shit about that. And in fact, that's what I don't like about the old classics, is that a lot of it was figure out the puzzle of how to get this hex and whatnot. And this is not what I play for. It's sort of the bad effect. It's the thinking part. Anyway, at relatively high cost, including depleting my helicopters, depleting my EW air points and whatnot, yeah, I get a couple of hexes. Now, I'm breaking the river line. That's a huge thing, right? I mean, this is a big deal. I'm subverting this whole section, which is important. That's going to pull out, Of course, it's going to pull out, and it's going to give NATO more troops to cover up here. So now it becomes ever more important that I launch my attack up in the north that I can't get. I just can't do it. Like, I look at it and I know, I don't care how many times I ram into this piece, if I'm hitting it at what could I get against it? With mobile warfare, I can get maybe 3-to-1 on it. It's in the woods. That's not too bad, right? If I throw a bunch of artillery into play, I can maybe get that up to 5-to-1. The chemicals, maybe up to 8-to-1. But I can't keep doing that, right? Like, all the artillery, chemicals, air power, everything like that, that's going to wear out. And just a single, intervention by a helicopter or something can just fuck my day up. It's just so hard to get a grasp on, how am I going to bludgeon through this shit? I mean, I'm trying. Here, I conducted this is the best thing I can do in the British sector as far as I can tell. I mean, maybe I could do the same here, right? I committed this, 12th Guard tank to, first it had to clear out the armored cav, and then and that's this unit here, and then I committed this unit and some artillery, helicopters from over on this map, because a breakthrough here is going to affect Beor, and I honestly don't think, I don't know. I haven't looked here, so I don't know. Maybe there'll be great attacks over on the Beor map, but this looks really vital. I end up getting myself an 8-to-1 attack, which isn't great. Chemicals, smoke, mobile warfare, which sucks. I get a result of a fully prepared attack using up all my movement points. I had to move to get here, so I could have done 2 hasties, but I just don't have the resources to commit to do that. I end up getting a 1 on each of them. It was a 1-2 result. Great. You know, it's like, nah, I'm not going to be able to budge this shit. And I don't mind that, you know, I mean, that may be correct. It may be that, yeah, you're stopped like this. That certainly seems to be what the West's evaluation was that Warsaw Pact would get an initial wave in, and then they'd have a lot of trouble moving forward. I realize I fucked up. This was the weak spot. And by the time I discovered the weak spot, I'd already used the 6th guard to attack this, which sucks. I tried an attack here, threw a bunch of air support in and everything. It didn't work. I've expended a hell of a lot and basically gotten almost nothing. I damaged myself here, got a couple of hits on this, did kind of an attritional hit there, and we're stymied, you know? Now it's time to think about maybe cracking this and getting into a better position where, well, no, this is the weak spot. We're running low on everything. We're running low on EW here. We're down to 2. I don't think I can do anything to kind of try to reduce Hamburg. We had, you know, a limited success here, but yeah. Crap, man. And it sucks. I got all dressed, took my dump, everything, getting my tea ready, got shoes on, and just happened to, you know, be watching the news or whatever, and my little weather app says it's going to rain in like half an hour. It takes me about 25 minutes to get down to the store, so my whole walk back will be in rain. I guess I put it off till tomorrow. We are in the middle of the night. I'm launching one more attack at least here on the North German plain map. And by the way, someone mentioned, I didn't catch the orientation. I don't know if I did or not, but I thought it's pretty clear, but that way's north. Austria's down here, Denmark's up there. We're going east to west. You know, it should be pretty obvious, but I don't know. Okay, so I've got a fairly hefty attack here. I don't remember what it is. It's like a 28 to 4. It's 7 to 1 in the city. Wasn't able to get an engineer down. I've got like one here, but I couldn't get him in place. But I've got it surrounded. I've got gas going in. I'm doing a standard attack. I don't think I'm going to blow an EW point, though. Here's the reason. This unit's in a lot of trouble. This division, as a whole, is kind of worn out. I kind of think, screw them, you know? If you want to devote one of your couple of German helicopters to something that may hurt it, go ahead. However, I'm going to roll a die for NATO because I think they might. Probably about the same as the EW die, 50-50, but I'll do odds they go for it. All right, so they're going to throw some helicopter support in. Both of their helicopters reach. It's a hard call. I think I'll use this one if they're even. Oh, but they're both in danger of dying. That's the problem. Not likely. Not likely, right? So if we're looking at 7 to 1 in the city, with 1, 2, 3 plus surrounded, well, we're not looking at 7 to 1 anymore. If we're looking at 11, 28 to 11 is 2 to 1 in the city, which is as shitty as it gets. In the shitty. 1, 2, 3, 4. I probably did a 3-point attack. Most I can get is 1 hit on them. So I think it's worth it for the helicopter to go into play. And the result wasn't good. It ended up doing a hit to the helicopter. So on a secondary attack by the same unit, I chose not to throw the second helicopter in, and that resulted in destroying the unit, getting a bit of a breakthrough, and then following up with another unit which was able to smash the armored cav away, and get into position where it's tying down one of the artillery pieces. Now there's still this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which can keep things in check. So this is not a great target right now, but that's okay. Like I said, the 21st is pretty beat up at this point. Now I search for another potential attack. Where I really wanted the breakthroughs, I couldn't find them. But here, yeah, there were weak spots along the edges, and that's really throwing like this cluster and whatnot into some question. But I only have one more EW point left. It is so hard at this point to play the game. It really is. Part of it, the lighting does not help. But even without the lighting issue, when it's daytime and whatever, I'm having such a hard time finding those locations where I can, conduct an effective attack, even given EW working and everything. And we end up not getting a great answer here. I did a multi-hex attack here, beat the unit, but it used my last EW. And now, I look around and I'm like, I kind of like to hit this, but I really can't. I can't afford another attack there. There may be something over here that I can do, but I doubt it without EW, unless I can pin down the artillery that's nearby. I got most of the guns pinned down, but there's a couple back here that I have to get. So that's going to be kind of my goal, is to try to shift something around. I got this 18th guard tank or somethingth guard tank, which is loose, but not really effective. I do have counter battery fire coming from here, which could be very helpful. That is probably my best answer at this point. But I will try to figure something out. But things like this, that's going to be really hard to reduce. And I just don't know what to do. It's also within the shield of the artillery, so I'm hoping to kind of trim stuff away over here. At the expenditure of more resources, ones I can't really afford, but whatever, that's the way it is. I managed to reduce a couple of units that were in my way here, push forward, launch an attack on this that really was not a great idea. I mean, it kind of is, because I recover, this doesn't. Of course, this doesn't recover, but clearing this out would fix that problem. So, I wasn't going to make it retreat with the attack I was doing. It was like a 6-to-1, but with all kinds of odd shifts, chemical smoke, whatnot. Did a hit in exchange for, how many points? An air point, one artillery point, I think, and the activation of a unit, which wasn't going to do anything anyhow. And I am trying to, actually it was this unit here, I am trying to advance in here. Actually, I think I used 2 different artillery points in there. I think I fired this one off and did the chemicals and smoke from this one. So, but I'm recovering, he's not. That leaves only one thing left on this map, which is the 35th Division here. I know what I'd like to do with it, but I can't. I no longer have any EW left. I would like to try to bash through here or something, but it's just not there. But I can set things up for a multi-hex attack on something like this, and thereby, threaten the position a little bit more. This might be even more attractive, I don't know. It's certainly easier to get to, and collapsing things here, connecting up, that looks good, because just the threat of it might be enough to force NATO to pull back, and then, I resolve any kind of risk to these units. Humorously, I notice a part of the 21st Division, which has decided to go this way, at least for now, is way up here. I don't know if I want to pull him back, push him further on. You know, he's certainly out of range of his divisional support though at this point, which is kind of a problem. So yeah, I brought the 21st unit down. There's no reason for him to be floating up here. He's no longer the vanguard. I've got units attacking up this way, 2 divisions up that way, I think. So 35th is coming here. I might as well pull him down, join his division while they rest up or whatever by pinning this unit and focusing my attack over here in kind of a position to start punching through or hitting the artillery over here. I can actually reach the artillery in my next move, which would be kind of devastating, although there's still this artillery back here. So, of course, I've got stuff in counter battery range. So we are actually set up so that 35th could launch an attack. As long as the helicopters don't want to intervene, which they probably don't. I just don't have that many hits left on my helicopters. It's probably better to try to fall back a little bit. I'm not going to hold this river line with everything that's facing it. I think we're done with the North German plain map, and it's just so hard to play at night. Although I'm coming under better lighting, I'm certainly going to take a break at this point. I don't know if I will be back during the darkness hours. I've got a couple hours that I'm trying to delay. Raid Shadow Legends gets called Wait Shadow Legends because you basically have events that you know are coming and you don't want to waste your resources until they come available. And I'm at a point where I've got like a 3-hour break. I just spent, I think, at least a good half hour on moving a couple of units. It is Wednesday. I got home from a tiny shopping trip. It's fairly late, not terribly so, like 2:30 at this point. I got up at like 8 and decided to go back to sleep. Unfortunately, I got what I wanted. I always go out with this vague sort of, not for normal shopping, but nor for the bar particularly, but when I do something like this, part of my motivation is this vague hope that something wonderful happens. And, well, nothing wonderful, but I found 6 books, the Earthsea trilogy, which I haven't read in a long time, and something called Beautiful Creatures. I think 3 of 4 books, maybe there's more coming, I don't know, that looked interesting as well. So, you know, I got more than I expected out of the trip. And I managed to get all the things I wanted, but I had trouble finding stuff at the Market of No Choice. They had moved the summer sausage. That was really the driving force to what I went for. I got 3 things. What may be dinner tonight, which is this wonderful ravioli, pre-cooked, whatever. You kind of boil it to cook it still, but really, really, really good thing. I like. It's like a cheese and lemon mix. The cheese goes well with the lemon, and just really, really tasty. And then, of course, the sausage, and a little bag full of like bulk chocolates with ginger inside them, which is an interesting flavor and one that you can't get anywhere else, and it's fairly expensive, but everything there is fairly expensive. Anyway, but the problem is I'm dripping sweat from being in my coat with the backpack and everything. So like I was considering, hey, I could move a few pieces and, you know, maybe get started on one of these other maps, but I don't want to lean over the map with sweat. So I guess it's to raid. I'm hoping to get some in during the daylight time. It's just so hard to play at night with the little spotlights. Although I suspect at some point tonight, somewhere, I think it's around midnight, 1 in the morning or so, I'm definitely going to be taking a break from raid for a while. Oh, that was a failure. It's dark and foggy now, and I don't think I can play. I had a hell of a nice little meal, though. I'm stiff. I must have slept funny, but it's Thursday, and it looks like a decent enough day. I might go out for a little walk or something. Nothing purposeful. Or not. We're always hopeful. I got 2 maps left, basically, and I start looking over here, and I think, well, there's not a lot that's going to head this way, so, I think I'm going to start over here on this map. Of course, all the reinforcements are on the Bear map. 39th Guard, not needing to rely, I got some more here, not needing to rely on EW, because I'm only facing Germans. The helicopter is not in good shape. There's not another one around. I was able to pick on this unit, brush it out of sight, destroy an artillery unit, slip around behind this artillery. After some counter battery fire to knock the artillery out, I was close enough I could do that. And now I've got an opening for, say, the 11th Guard to slide up this way and push on further. And it can either come down onto the Bayar map, or, which I think is even more appealing, continue to push up into the 5th Corps map and get some depth there. Because when it comes to the Soviet doctrine, you've got to figure they want to go as far west as possible, period, the end. If they can do that on the 5th Corps map, because the 5th Corps map is offset further west, gains on the 5th Corps map are just more important because those can be exploited onto the adjacent maps. So that's how I'm following it, but I may send yet another division. I have the 7th Czech division here, although that's kind of trying to rest. I have reinforcements, but again, they're not going to be able to make it very far. But 7th Czech might be the one to move here. On the other hand, it might make more sense to send the Czechs up this way to keep them closer in relation to these units. Of course, if I send them this way, they could coordinate with units to try to surround this and break this up before heading off onto the Bayern map. I don't know. It's like you're faced with all these kind of weird little choices. The biggest penetration I can possibly get is sending the 11th Guard up, try to hammer this helicopter, maybe interfere with with the artillery here and these damaged units, and really just take out that whole German, sort of slice of control there, because the U.S. is unwilling to support them. I find the lack of interop, I'm not really familiar with the period, but I'm familiar enough now to know that we do joint exercises with interop capabilities and whatnot regularly, and I find it hard to believe that something similar wasn't done at the very height of the Cold War. It's not like interoperative capabilities weren't used in World War I and World War II. Sure, there was friction at the edges. There were issues where maybe it would be more difficult, but it just doesn't seem like it would be this complete there's no Germans around? Too bad. It was clear the 11th Guard. It was the only one that could take out the attack helicopter, which had to, by pinning this artillery first, and now you can see we've taken a position sweeping behind even some of the U.S. positions, and really denigrating the entire 5th Corps map. This whole position is now in question. We're going to probably have to swing back towards Frankfurt, try to build a defensive line up there. We don't have the troops for it, though. And one little weakness in the line, and it all falls apart. And in this case, the weakness was the interoperability. I feel like what this game postulates about that is just way too impactful. The resting parts of the Czech 7th Division, pushing around behind this position. Again, I'm not getting as far as maybe I could have with the, what, is it 11th guard? But it's what I want. I like this position better than what the reverse would have been, which is a little deeper in here, maybe threatening this artillery and whatnot. But I do feel, I keep feeling like the Soviet advance is going to end, but it can't end as long as they are able to find places to break through. And as long as you've got enough force to be able to keep attacking, I think you will find breakthroughs here, there, and elsewhere. Now I'm in something of a limbo state. Everywhere where I have units that are uncommitted or haven't taken an action yet. So for example here, look, I have a clear mop-up operation that a couple of my units could get very, very heavily involved in. Well, that really this entire 11th division could get involved in. Maybe not this hex where I could use some rest, quite a bit of rest. But for these two hexes, I could try to clear this, try to, get things open. Not a hard decision at all, but I'm a little worried about the resources I might use. On the other hand, I don't think the U.S. is going to commit helicopters to these fights. If they do, that might open up opportunities elsewhere. So yeah, I think I'll do that first. But then I've got other things like this, 27th Guard. Kind of beat up, needs some rest, but it has a few units that are okay. And I'd like to kind of look at what happens here before I make a decision. Do I just push them against the line up here? Or is some opportunity opening up, maybe a castle, or maybe to pump more troops through a gap that the couple of divisions here, the 9th and the 6th Guard tank, are able to create. This looks dangerous to me. This looks suspiciously like a pocket about ready to happen, with this. But although I'm, mostly surrounded, I'm mostly surrounded by much, much weaker stuff and could very easily get broken out if a true pocket were created. So I don't think, I think this is a successful offensive push. But sometimes it's not clear, right? Sometimes it's like, kind of reminds me of the game of pockets. What the fuck is it? Hitler's War. Where it's like, a single die roll basically can determine, was it a successful offensive that pockets the enemy's entire force? Or did you just stick your own unit, out in the middle of the enemy territory, and now you're pocketed and unable to do a damn thing? That game is just wacky. It's trying to simulate this kind of situation, but it just doesn't do it. Because there are troops involved in creating those pockets, essentially. Well, it kind of does. I don't know. But yeah, seeing what happens here on the Bayeur map might be of value, but I think I am going to reduce these first. So the East German 11th, these are East German, not Czech. I think I said Czech. Manages to wipe out two of the three, to drive away two of the three armored cav. One of them is dead. One of them is up here in Fulda. This one, I don't want to attack yet. Again, I'm not in any great hurry, but this is sort of positioning itself for being in that kind of location, although who knows what NATO is going to have to fall back to in line in order to defend anything. Things are looking so shaky on the 5th Corps map that, hey, can we hold this, This is already kind of being penetrated and whatnot, so. Just noticed another defect between these two units, a little too much space. You can actually slip back there and get around that artillery back there. Might be able with EW to get some attacks on the artillery, knock it out. Without EW, though, still be subject to this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or to, there's a helicopter up there, there's one here. I don't think we can push far enough to get to the helicopter with anything. I mean, we'd only be able to get to this one anyway, but that would be actually a really useful thing to do if we could slip in that far down. So I was looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Almost. Well, we can get to the helicopter itself. Wow. That might be worth just like trying to take advantage of that little gap there and push as hard as we can. Now, here's the problem. That would work fine, but this is the first turn where it doesn't, because I don't get a breakthrough from that. So unless I have follow-up attacks and can kind of solidify a break here, it's overreach. It's overreach is the problem. I could slip one unit back there that far, as long as the rest are able to do something here. But if I can do that, yeah. I mean, keeping this helicopter from getting into play is of some value. There's no question of that. Attacking it with EW may be of less value once I have it pinned down or whatever. I don't know. You gotta mention earlier, wow, it is kind of pretty hot. Damn it. I feel like I have to play, you know? It's like I eat up so much of my time in front of the computer. I wasn't even playing Raid this time. I watched a video, some news video. You know, looked on BGG for a bit, and 40 minutes is gone. I had to eat lunch or whatever, so I had a doggy for lunch. But what I turned on the camera for was just to mention my back and neck kind of hurt, which is making it harder to play. But I kind of want to get through this video today. I don't know how likely it is. So this defect through the center here, yeah, one little mistake and the game's over. At least it feels that way. Wouldn't be all that impressive if I'm just driving back here, because I have nothing to follow up, to try to like control the space there. But I have another breakthrough here that I can conjoin with or whatever. And this looks pretty much completely degraded. So with a rid through here, if I can get the 27th guard maybe to help control and cut these guys off more. Just make it so that there aren't enough NATO units behind my lines that can cut off my supply, right? I should be able to actually kind of control this and cut these poor little suckers off and, reduce them just like I can reduce these. And I wasn't able to slice up this far and keep a connection, tenuous as it might be, and cut these units off. So I chose kind of 1.5 out of 3 or 4. I attacked out here. I almost kind of have a connection here. It can be cut, but I don't think it can be cut and this connection be cut at the same time. I'm not sure I'm actually in supply coming down this way right now, but what I did is I brought the 22nd tank, the reinforcement from here. This is the most valuable thing I can do, is push harder here. Just break open this Fulda gap even wider. Fold it down there. And make my stretch for Frankfurt. I think this is more vital than some kind of playing along the edge, trying to bring something in over here to get a little bit more weight into the Hofgap map or over here onto the Bayor map. Because if this map falls, if the center of the line falls, if the Soviets are able to get as far west as possible, they're going to be able to degrade positions on these other maps at will, right? And this looks pretty nasty to me. Is it? I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I just pocketed, you know, two Soviet divisions. I don't think so. Because this looks strong. This looks too much fast like ninja. I start to find, yeah, another unit deriving off this little chain here. This thin little thing is serving so much purpose, honestly. But I have a couple of units in the 27th Guard, one down here that's really just a backup. I throw it in to strengthen a position or whatever. But this one could actually launch an attack, and it's got a number of different places where it could do it. I could hit this, which is a definite weak spot, but like it's a slightly weaker unit. Could get hurt. It's in decent terrain though. It's in this rough with woods, which is almost as bad as a city. Part of why it's weak, there's no artillery here for the US, and the only helicopter at all is out of range way back there. So I could hit it, but I don't have enough force to really do much. I might be able to, you know, trade some attrition points or something, but that's about it. Then I look down here at Castle. That would open things up for all of this. That would be great. But again, it's in the city, and here I'm facing artillery. So I'd need to use a Bayor EW, which may or may not work. Could end up not. That's the closest of my attacks. And then another possibility, although this would have to be a really hard to make attack, is just strengthen my position by hitting that German unit there. There's nothing that can help that. And I kind of feel like, okay, I think I can pass on this, but I can't make my decision between these two until I move back to the Bayor map and start doing some shit over there. And it's just, you know, everything gets so entangled that you can't figure out what you want to do with what. And I mean, I'm finding pieces that I haven't done anything with, like this helicopter. That's okay. It can project power in a lot of places. I can perhaps throw an attack in with it at some point a little later. But I did move some other units that were, you know, kind of left behind back here to find their command or whatever. And I may have that kind of problem throughout. Although I generally tend to try to clear a map. I did find stuff over in the Hofgap map that I wasn't expecting. Then I got like this. I could move this artillery out of there. And that would give me more flexibility for later operations. But by leaving it here, it's a very strong attack on those. And I can't really do anything with it, except apparently counter battery fire. It doesn't seem to be restricted, but I guess I could hit this. But I don't have anything to do with it, so don't want to do that. I got a couple of units of the 7th Guard over here that I still haven't figured out what I'm doing with. But I think I'm going to hold off and leave some of the 5th Corps map unprocessed. Try to figure out what the fuck I can do over here on the Bayor map. Ugh. I'm worried I pushed too far with this unit. He's not in a zone of control, because that's just an artillery. I may be able to withdraw him towards the end of my move. The idea being, look, he's just not in a sustainable place. A line could be built where he's no longer able to get supplies. Now, as long as he doesn't do anything, that's fine, or get attacked. But remember the surprise rule, somewhat dangerous, so I may want to actually fall back. I honestly, this is where I don't know, like, this is where I think the doctrine might be so rigid that the Soviets would actually have trouble accomplishing that. Like, they've achieved a front point very often, like, I don't know how to put it, but I feel like the rigidity of their doctrine was such that it would actually be problematic for them to fall back in order to achieve a more defensible position when they're on the offensive like this. I feel entirely handcuffed, honestly. Like every decision feels dependent on others and just makes me want to flap. Attempted an attack here, then pulled back. 6-guard tank is running back across the river even. I don't know what to do with the 9th. I don't feel like they have a lot of fighting capability, but to give me some more functionality and some more strength in terms of getting supplies into this general area. Although supplies are going to be kind of hard anyway. Remember, it's only like 6 ops points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not able to get to a road. I don't have a way clear. This guy is going to have a hit on him. That's fine. He was overextended, like I said. But I could have got him down to here. Would that have helped? 1, 2, 3. That could get me to 6. Yeah, since I don't have this surrounded anyway, let's get that there. But I'm throwing the 14th guard, which was coming on as a reinforcement up to here. Things are very weak on this sort of right flank. I mean, look at this gap, but it doesn't matter, right? Like, what matters is how far I can penetrate through NATO lines. Yeah, to some extent, maybe some kind of NATO counterattack could be a problem. But I look at those Soviet units and I'm like, yeah, you can't hit that. If they can't hit my units that are half the size, I'm not going to be able to launch anything like an effective attack, a counterattack against the main big units that the pact has. Even though I'm doubled, that just brings me to about half as effective as they were. But yeah, this is nightmarish, and I'm not getting, like, I compare this to like the big tactical games that I play, like the Leipzig or whatever, or Waterloo. And first of all, this is so much more complicated to cope with. The thinking, the interrelations between pieces and whatnot. And then throw on top of that I'm not getting that exciting image of like units in formation moving. What I'm getting is maybe these blurry kind of war movie images of what's happening at a very tactical level, but not, and then at a level that I can't enjoy as much, the sort of, here's a division shifting this way, the rectangles with the arrows and whatnot. Mainly been doing a lot of maneuver here on the Bayor map. There's been some attacks. They have not been successful. Like 20th Tank made a couple of attacks on this. No real effect. I'm also positioning myself, just trying to wedge my way in, but it's not easy. All right, you need the set piece battle to really be able to blow through stuff. 207th Division is moving up to here, but actually that's what's engaged here. That they're stretched all the way through here. Actually, no, I don't think this is 207. No, that's part of 47th Guard. 207th is down here. I moved some of the artillery that was supporting them over to the 47th to help eliminate this unit. I don't have a hell of a lot. I don't have much hope of busting through any of this area. Those are good British units. They're like the US units. They're tough. They're not what I want to face. Right? Certainly not in that kind of terrain. So I'm trying to break through this way, cut Hanover open. This is still my main focus, though, because it gets me the furthest on the map, and I think I finished this map. I think what I have left is really the reinforcements to bring in. It looks like there's a lot of unused units, but a lot of those are just resting. They really need to recuperate here. And if that's the case, then I can decide what the hell to do with 27th Guard. And I don't have a good answer, it seems. Oh, some failed attacks on the 5th Corps map over here. These didn't get me anything. I might have done a hit to the Germans, but at much higher cost. Over here, I took a hit here, I took a hit here, didn't get anything good out of it. I'm doing kind of low odds attacks, throwing chemicals in and whatnot, in a hope of weakening their position or something. I don't know. Just because just moving against the enemy unit doesn't seem worth my time. And I have lots of movement points for, prepared attack and everything. I have these extra air points, I have the extra EW points on the 5th Corps map, but I'm just drawing blanks with them. So I think the next thing I do is I bring those reinforcements in, but I need a break. All right, so I finished things off here, bringing in, 4 divisions, armored divisions of a tank army. We got them swooping in here, up there, and here. A lot of additional troops showing up on the Bayeux map. Let's take a look at what the world looks like at the end of the Soviet turn. So we've pushed up to here, little gap, and then we hit along there. And, oh God, my back hurts. Over here, a little bit of an incursion that I'm not sure I like what's going on up there. I'm gonna have to be somewhat proactive because otherwise I got no supply. Well, that's just an artillery, so 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gets me to what looks like the road net, but I'm not sure because I don't think there's any junction there. So I may be pushing a little far out of supply and have to push some of these units out of the way, or maybe some of these. I don't know. Let's keep looking. Then we cut up again. Some units that have pushed a little too hard, maybe coming across the river. Is that is? I think that's no, that's whatever this river is. I was going to say I think that's the Weser. No, it's not. It's the Main. Okay. I don't know what this branch is. This is the Regnitz. Okay. But pretty much following the river line here, unable to get the penetration that we want. Over here, a little bit of incursion through it. Nothing looks too different because these units haven't done anything. They're trying to recover, and I'm trying to hold some sort of supply path, but who knows? It doesn't look that good for the pact here. A little clump here trying to push through onto the Hof Gap map. Then a big empty space where the Soviets have not pushed any force against. That's a bunch of decent US troops in decent terrain. It's just not fightable. And instead of wasting my effort on that, I've got some nasty incursions that are really subverting the NATO position over here. But maybe at risk. I doubt it because this, like I've said, looks pretty strong in terms of an anchor. I mean, NATO could cut my supply, could do all kind of nasty things, but they might end up in worse shape. Units can be out of supply for, half a day, whatever, right? This isn't like those games where everything gets cleared off if it's out of supply at the end of the turn or whatever. It just doesn't recover, and that makes a lot more sense to me. The time scale is very different, though, too. If you're thinking, some of the Avalon Hill classics, I'm thinking things like Stalingrad and whatnot. Yeah, it makes sense that units would just fall apart without supply for 2 weeks or something. But here, it's not that long. It's a period they can hunker down and starve for a little bit. Or, not have gas, enough excess gas. Then here, we've got kind of, again, another incursion breaking through, threatening the Bayor map. But we come down through Castle. This little bulge that we created, we had to fall back from a little bit and not gaining anything. We got this entire 9th Division. I can't figure out what the fuck to do with it. Maybe I should do something. All right, well, then here, the bad terrain in front of the Weser is stalling us completely. And then we come down in Hanover. We pretty much bypassed Hanover, trying to crack, you know, in its near surroundings along the river line and not getting any ground there either. So, you know, the only advance we've made on the Bayor map is stuff that basically came from the 5th Corps map. This is a nasty map, and there's good troops on it. For whatever reason, the West German units, maybe because there's, I don't know why, they're just much, much weaker than the US and British units. And that is not something I would have thought, to tell you the truth. And if you look at the NATO game, it does not rate the West German units so poorly. Were the original West German units this poorly rated? I'm not sure. I'll peek later. Then we come here, and we've got a big threat pushing on the river line here. This is the lane. And towards the Weser again. You know, something that could not have happened were it not for the staggering of the additional maps. Because if you look where we're actually responsible for, this breakthrough in the beginning happened because of the Bayor map. And now we're trying to defend a line across here and over into Hamburg. And honestly, I think NATO's doing a pretty good job on a map-by-map basis if you don't count where the maps join. Where they join, for whatever reason, the Warsaw Pact units were able to leverage this sort of staggering in an interesting way. By the way, I wanted to give you guys a life hack, or something of that nature. When you run out of jelly, like when your jelly is running down in the jar and you know, you've scraped the last little bits out, there's always still some left in there. So what I do, my mess goes everywhere, is I brew a tea inside the remains of the jar, get the rest of that flavor. Just, you know, my cheap normal tea or a bag that I've already used of my more expensive normal tea, and it gives you kind of a flavored tea, which is kind of a fun thing to do. I have smaller jelly jars as well. Oh, my mail, my mail. Today I'm supposed to get my socks. I don't know. It takes them so long once they pull up. It doesn't look like I'm getting anything. I don't know. I was just outside, so it's not like it's, you know, sitting outside my my basement doors at least. But yeah, let me take a look. And every time I scan things, I'm gonna find places. But there was a division that I didn't do enough with. Well, there's a couple. There's this one up here that I did not do enough with. Weren't there some loose units? I mean, I got like this from the Czech 1st Division, but it's doing something in general. Yeah, I might have an attack there as well. It's never ending. It's never ending. Because it's so easy to lose track of something and just, you know. I wanted to send this up, but all right. I'm too tired, man. Too tired to play this. It's just, I don't know. I mean, I have my fun at times. I really do. I do have my fun, but it's it's not the kind of game that really kind of hooked me. Early on, when I first started wargaming, it wasn't the kind of game that I was most excited about. A little later, though, I got kind of into that World War III type stuff, but this one kind of broke me. This one and NATO, between them, kind of broke me of it, because this was the detailed look, and it was just too much work. And then NATO just felt like, I don't know. Some of it is the flavor of the very operation. The fact that, like, I don't know, it's kind of like East Front War, you know? Lots and lots of space, lots and lots of pieces to move, lots of stuff to take account of. It's too broad and too complex for my tastes, honestly. I say complex, I'm not really talking about the game system itself. I feel like the game system's not that complex. And NATO certainly isn't. It's actually the situation. The way that you have to fight these wars. And it applies to World War II as well for me. It's just too many interlocking effects, right? Like, you do something in one place and it has too much of effect somewhere else. And it's not like the broad effects like, oh, I will attempt an offensive in the East Front, you know, to take the opponent's brain off the well, to take their efforts, reduce their capability to succeed, say, on the West Front or something along those lines. I don't know. No real gains of any value. I think I already talked about this, right? I wasted some resources there. Over here on the Bayor map, I have a lot of EW available. I still have air points left. I have like 16 air points left. I may actually be doing follow-up attacks in later impulses, so we'll leave them where they are. Made a couple of attacks here with the 9th Division. It pushed this unit back a hex, caused it a grand total of 1 hit. That was through like 2 attacks, a lot of resources spent. Feels so painful to do anything, right? It feels so hopeless, you want to just hang up your hat. In a couple of cases, EW failed and helicopters were brought in. Got a couple of them there. Sure, they're wearing down, you know, but it's just like, so fucking attritional and tiresome to do. It's one of the reasons why this level of detail on kind of an operational game and deeper, something like Flashpot Golan. Let's just mix up my slur for it with the actual name some more. It is just so, you know, you're just doing so much to try to cause an expenditure here or there. See, some of the other victory games were the same way. You'll see it if you watch my Central America coverage as well. If I ever get to the strike games, Gulf Strike, Aegean Strike, or the fleet games, a lot of it is just this, do something to force them to do something with one of their capabilities and just keep wasting, you know, efforts here and there. And again, it's not something that I find appealing play-wise. What the hell do I got here? Got an artillery unit that, I don't know, you know, maybe I want to move him off because he's not able to do anything where he is. He moves up here, then he's able to use his artillery support in favor of an attack to try to breach the river a little bit better. But it's that kind of choice all over the fucking place. And it's just, it's so, I don't know. To me, it's tiresome and fatiguing. Oh, look, I got an engineer to bring in. Anyway, this is going up. I'll bring that engineer in. I don't know where the fuck he's going to go. I got one trailing there. I just brought one over here. I don't know. I don't know. You know,